King Arthur Flour went on the road to experience baking across America. In Boston, Massachusetts, we visited pastry expert Joanne Chang at her award-winning flour bakery and cafe.
My name is Joanne Chang. I own Flour Bakery and Cafe in Boston. We have 2 locations. They're in different neighborhoods, so each location has its own personality. In the South End, it is truly a neighborhood bakery. There are probably about 12 to 24 people who come in every single morning, sit at the exact same table. They all know each other. When they go on vacation, they send mail to each other to the bakery. In our Fort Point Channel location, it's a newer location, so we're still trying to create that feeling, and we try to make the physical atmosphere comfortable so that if you are a neighbor and you live around here, you want to come here and hang out here and meet a friend, or just come by yourself and relax a little bit. I studied applied math economics at Harvard. When I graduated, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do, so I got a management consulting job. But at the end of my 2 years as a management consultant, I really wanted to do something that I had a passion for, and I'd always loved to cook, and I'd always loved to spend time in the kitchen. So I got a job in a professional kitchen. I realized very quickly that I loved baking more than I liked cooking. I was in the professional kitchen cooking, and I was actually spending all my time with the head pastry chef, trying to help him with all of his desserts. So I decided to switch into baking, and I haven't looked back. My favorite things to make were always dough related. I loved making croissant dough, I love making pâte brisée, I love working with dough, I love shaping bread. So that's something that we do a lot here at Flours. We make all of our own breads, we do all of our own laminated doughs. I just love getting my hands in the flour and the butter and mixing it, and there's a smell that comes from mixing all of that is just, it's really wonderful there. And so King Arthur is kind of the building block for us, and making sure that we start off with, really great flour. Something as simple as bread is 3 or 4 ingredients. If you mess up one of the ingredients, then your final product isn't going to be so hot. So we're very aware of that. I mean, we're called Flour. This is our name. We want the best flour out there. One of the things we like to do at Flour is to take pastries that you're familiar with, maybe from the grocery store, and make our version of them. What we try to do is take the ingredients that go into, for example, a Pop Tart, and then using what we have, which is the best flour, the best butter, the best fruit, we come up with our own version of a Pop Tart. So our Pop Tart is a flaky pie crust called pâte brisée that we make here using, again, the best ingredients, and then we layer that with pockets of jam, and then bake that off, and then glaze it with a glaze that we make, and we call it our homemade Pop Tart. And they're wonderful, and they're very popular. We sell out every day. We always sell out. So I'm going to show you a trick to make sure that your pie dough is really flaky, so that you have a really great, beautiful flaky pie, or Pop Tart, or quiche, or whatever. There's so many applications for this dough. So this is the butter with some of the flour all mixed together, and then I'm going to add the liquid. For this recipe, it's egg yolks and milk, and I'm just going to add this liquid just until it starts to come together as a dough. And I think a lot of people, what they end up doing is they overmix the dough, but I'm going to show you a trick that's going to make for a really beautiful flaky crust. And that's how we incorporate all of this butter into the dough. Okay, so at this point, a lot of people would take this further, because obviously it doesn't look like a dough, and they would have the machine or their hands kind of going at it. But there's a technique called FRISSAGE, which actually means to smear, in which basically you take this mass of shagginess that doesn't really look like anything, and you smear the butter into the flour. And so what you're doing is you're creating sheets of butter, long sheets of butter, like that. When you do that, what you end up with in the final product is long sheets of butter in between long sheets of dough. That goes into the oven. The heat of the oven causes the water that's in the butter to turn to steam, and then the steam causes the flakes. And so if you don't have those sheets of butter, then you don't get a flaky dough. But if you do have these nice long sheets of butter, then your dough ends up being really, really flaky. So it's a very simple method. It's actually a lot of fun. It's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. And you just smear all these butter chunks into the flour. So I've done that once. It's still pretty shaggy, so I'm going to do it again. And again, you just go from the top and just in slow motion, you just push it down. And what I'm doing is I'm creating long sheets of butter in between long sheets of dough. And you'll find when you roll this out and make a pie or make quiche, you'd get a really flaky, delicious, and delicate product. So there, now we have our dough. And this has to chill before you use it, but you chill it, and then all the butter firms up, and then when you roll it out to make your pie or your Pop Tart or whatever, then you roll it out and you continue to get that long sheets of butter. And you have to make sure that your dough has a little bit of butter in it. So that's why I spent some time making sure that the butter was mixed into the flour so that that dough is also going to be delicate. So that's it.
The serving of baked goods that we create here is very social for us, and you know, we love to make it, but we also love watching you eat it. And I think that people do feel like this is a home away from home, which is one of our original goals.
We're back on the road as King Arthur flour goes baking across America.